WWE, male wrestlers couldn't just be wrestlers. They're superstars. And for a while, the women wrestlers couldn't just be wrestlers. They were divas. Diva became the catch-all term for the glamorous starlets, ruthless brawlers, and non-wrestling schemers that inhabited the women's side of the WWE locker room for the better part of 2 decades. During the Diva era, the likes of Sable, Trish Stratus, Lita, Stacy Keibler, the Bella Twins, and Stephanie McMahon were all pushed to the forefront, making their respective marks as performers. But not every diva proved to be as memorable. For every stratifying idol in the stratosphere, there were plenty of divas that dimmed in the galaxy quickly enough. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 forgotten WWE divas. Join us! Number 10, Carmella de Cesare. It's quite hard to fathom how one could forget WWE's original Carmella, the victim of one of the most verbally disorienting segments in televised WWE history. A contestant on the 2004 Diva Search, Carmella, who'd been designated as the hated bad girl of the hopefuls, was verbally debased by her rival competitors on a level that would have had Howard Stern scrambling to hit the dump button. Carmella's place in WWE history is as the runner-up of the inaugural Diva Search, losing out to Krissy Hemme. She went on to wrestle Hemme, in the academic sense, at the 2004 Taboo Tuesday, after which Carmella disappeared from WWE altogether. Carmella claimed that she was offered a contract with WWE even after losing the contest, but the company wouldn't meet her agent's demands, and she's not appeared in the pro wrestling world since. Carmella later went on to start a family with former NFL quarterback Jeff Garcia, and as of the 2020s, was working as a realtor in California. Number 9, Cherry. Retro-based gimmicks have a place in pro wrestling. Acts like the Outrunners and the Vaudevillains developed their own followings, arguably more so than a team who reigned as SmackDown Tag Champions in 2007. Deuce and Domino were a pair of 50s-style greasers that entered via convertible to a slow and swaying doo-wop ditty. Accompanying the pair was Deuce's main squeeze and Domino's sister, Cherry. Cherry was veteran indie wrestler Cara Slice, playing up the throwback vibe with poodle skirts, roller skates, and a habit of constantly chewing gum. Though the trio lorded over SmackDown's tag division for the better part of 4 months, there was little momentum behind the act, and the two Roughnecks were split from Cherry in the spring of 2008. Adopting more modern attire, Cherry stuck around as a mid-card babyface for several months, facing the likes of Natalya and even Vicky Guerrero before getting released that August. She participated in only a handful of indie matches thereafter. Number 8, Brooke Adams. Somehow, by 2007, it was decided that the ECW brand needed its own version of the Nitro Girls dance troupe. Inbound came Extreme Exposé, a trinity that included brand regular Kelly Kelly, 2006 Diva Search winner Layla L, and developmental call-up Brooke Adams. Adams failed to reach the final field of the 2005 Diva competition, but was offered a developmental deal anyway, and ended up in Deep South Wrestling. As part of Extreme Exposé, Adams was merely an accompaniment to the show instead of an involved character, for a while anyway. Later that year, Brooke and Layla turned heel by, as only a heel could, fawning over The Miz, while Kelly developed an unlikely affinity for Balls Mahoney. The feud between Kelly and her ex-Exposé dance mates didn't really go anywhere outside of the occasional physicality in the odd Diva Battle Royal, and Brooke was released in November after less than a year on the main roster. She later turned up in TNA as Brooke Tessmacher, reigning multiple times as Knockouts champion. Number 7, Amy Zidian. Once again, another Diva Search contestant who didn't win the contest was, with zero wrestling experience, hired anyway and sent off to one of WWE's developmental branches. In this case, 20-year-old Zidian was among the first eliminations of the 2006 contest, but still earned a WWE contract. Within months of her signing, she'd appear as a character on SmackDown and then quickly find her way out of the company after a handful of reported backstage altercations. In the autumn of 2006, Zidian debuted on SmackDown as the valet of light-hearted cowpoke Jimmy Wang Yang, complementing his gimmick with similar rustic gear. Then, as indicated barely a month later, Zidian was fired from WWE. Shortly after her release, stories emerged that she'd reportedly disrespected a number of fellow women backstage, including making less than flattering comments about Vicky Guerrero's appearance, and, the final straw, dismissively blowing off advice from Stephanie McMahon. Zidian briefly worked worked some indie dates in 2007, but otherwise, that's been it for a wrestling career. Number 6. Hiroko. Hiroko was a rarity in WWE Diva circles of the time. She wasn't a glorified reality TV contestant, an ex-fitness model, or a trained wrestler that waded their way through WWE's feeder systems. Instead, she was the legitimate wife of 2004 WWE call-up Kenzo Suzuki and worked as his on-screen valet. Suzuki played a domineering heel, while Hiroko, in traditional geisha attire, cornered for him and served as his interpreter. She wasn't immune to the usual tropes of WWE Divadom though, as a feud with Tori Wilson that stretched into 2005 included a bra and panties match, or rather a kimono match, at a SmackDown taping in Japan. That was really the end of Hiroko, and even her husband, as relevant characters in WWE canon, as they were subsequently moved to Raw in the 2005 draft, and then, without ever appearing on their new show, released a week later. Hiroko wasn't as glamorized as other female performers of the time, and her and Kenzo's one-year tenure with the company has largely been overlooked since. Number 5. Maxine. Not to be confused with the Alpha Academy breakout star, this Maxine wouldn't find true success until she joined another organization. In 2010, the real-life Carly Perez was one of 6 participants on the 3rd season of reality-era NXT, an all-divas edition. Participants like AJ Lee, Naomi, and Caitlyn all went on to considerable WWE renown as champions and regular stars, but Maxine sadly never got that far. In the role of a vampish seductress, Maxine was the central figure of a love triangle involving Johnny Curtis, Fandango, and Derek Bateman, EC3, on the alternate reality program that was NXT Redemption. Frustrated with being relegated to the D show for too long, Perez just quit WWE, intending to move on from the business. A few years later, though, Perez resurfaced as part of the innovative Lucha Underground program. There, she played Katrina, an otherworldly villainess who went on to manage champion Mil Muertes and briefly reigned over the organization as shot caller. And that sounds way more fun than making Sophie's choice between a ballroom dancer and Dixie's bloody nephew. Number 4. Amy Weber. Alright, back to the goddamn diva search. In addition to first-year winner Christy Hemme, 4 of the 9 runners-up received contracts with WWE anyway. Among them, Michelle McCool became a fitness trainer, Maria Kanellis an interviewer, and the woman in this entry became a member of JBL's cabinet, serving as his image consultant and analyst. Amy Weber had worked in the entertainment industry for about a decade at the time of the diva search. She finished 4th in the contest and soon after popped up on SmackDown as a member of the WWE Champions well-dressed inner circle. Unfortunately, however, Weber's brief time with WWE came to a swift end in February 2005 when she resigned shortly after the company's recent Japanese tour. Weber later alleged bullying from talents like Randy Orton and Edge as the impetus for choosing to leave WWE. Number 3. Joy Giovanni. Giovanni was the other 2004 Diva Search finalist that found a kayfabe occupation in WWE following her elimination, becoming a massage therapist for the SmackDown brand. Anywho, Giovanni was a fan favorite from the competition in part because of her cheerful disposition, thereby living up to her first name. So whatever her role was on SmackDown, she seemingly had the personality to last a while. Upon her canonization as a full-time character, Giovanni sided with the Big Show in his feud with the Cabinet, mostly to neutralize Amy Weber's involvement on JBL's behalf. A match between the two seemed inevitable, but Weber left the company before it could materialize. Giovanni went on to win a truly mindless Rookie Diva of the Year pageant at the 2005 No Way Out before largely being downgraded to a bit player. She ended up getting released from WWE that summer as part of a large wave of talent cuts. But Giovanni did make a one-night return several years later for the WrestleMania 25 Divas Battle Royal. Number 2. Krissy Vaine. In September 2007, an unknown woman attacked Tori Wilson on an episode of SmackDown, following a match in which Wilson lost to Victoria. On the following week's broadcast, the woman known as Krissy Vaine was seen with show GM Vicky Guerrero, negotiating her debut match. And then, absolutely nothing. Vaine abruptly disappeared from WWE and was never mentioned again. She came and went in under 2 weeks. The real-life Kristen Eubanks signed with WWE Developmental in early 2006 and spent the ensuing year and a half sharpening her skills in Deep South Wrestling under the Vaine handle. Standing at 5'8" and being booked to overpower Tori so handily upon arrival, it seemed SmackDown had their answer to the Red Brand's Beth Phoenix. However, within days of her second TV appearance, Vaine and boyfriend Ryan O'Reilly, a developmental wrestler who much later became Connor of the Ascension, requested their releases from WWE. O'Reilly would return, but Vaine never has, leaving her with one of the shortest WWE tenures of any performer. And number 1, Katie Lee Burchill. Like Cherry and Vaine, and unlike much of the diva landscape in the mid-2000s, this final entrant had a fair amount of wrestling experience before signing with WWE. German-born Englishwoman Katrina Waters first cut her teeth in the UK in 2000. Using the ring name Nikita, Waters worked for numerous promotions, primarily the Frontier Wrestling Alliance. In 2006, she signed with WWE and reported to Ohio Valley Wrestling. In early 2008, Waters debuted on the Raw brand as Katie Lee Burchill alongside kayfabe brother Paul. And let's just say that the storyline indications were that the Burchill siblings may have had a riff-raff and magenta thing going on, something that WWE later downplayed when they took a more family-friendly tack. After Katie Lee failed to win the women's title from Mickie James at the 2008 Night of Champions, she fell deep into the lower mid-card, residing there until her release in 2010. Waters did find renewed life in TNA as Winter, a cruel enchantress that twice reigned with the Knockouts title.